Hi everyone, my name is Jaina and I'm a public educator here at the Dragonfly Center. I'll be guiding us through today's conversation about how we respond when someone we care about causes harm. This is something that happens more often than we talk about, and it can leave people feeling unsure, conflicted, and alone. This is not a simple topic. It brings up big questions about loyalty, accountability, justice, and care. And it's okay to feel a mix of things: confusion, anger, grief, sadness, or even resistance. That's part of doing the work. You don't need to be perfect to be here. This is a learning space, judgment free, and rooted in reflection. You're encouraged to take what resonates, sit with what feels challenging, and stay open to growth. And if at any point you need to pause and step away, please feel free to do so. Do what you need to do. This is not always an easy conversation to have, so I want to start by acknowledging your presence and your willingness to show up and to press play. Today, we're talking about a situation that many people don't know how to navigate: what to do when someone you know causes harm. This conversation lives in a tough but important place, where accountability, care, and justice meet. We'll explore how to respond when a friend, partner, colleague, or family member causes harm. We'll talk about how to support accountability in ways that don't excuse harm, and how to center the person who is hurt, even when it's complicated. We'll also reflect on what it means to stand in your values, set boundaries, and to not look away. This is a space for reflection, learning, and growth. You don't need to have all the answers, because none of us do. Some of what we discuss might bring up emotions or discomfort, and that's okay. That just means that it matters. You are invited to show up with openness, curiosity, and care for yourself and for others. These situations are rarely black and white. Relationships, loyalty, grief, and responsibility can all be tangled up together. We're not here to place blame. We're here to figure out ways to respond that support healing and accountability. I am really happy you're here. Your voice, your questions, and your reflection are part of what makes this conversation meaningful. So let's get started. Facing a difficult truth. It may be difficult to accept when someone you know has been perpetrating violence. This person could be a lifelong friend, a trusted colleague, a family member, or even your own child. Learning that someone who's always treated you with kindness and respect has caused harm to others can be deeply unsettling, and those feelings are entirely valid. However, how you choose to respond to this information can have a profound impact. Individuals who perpetrate violence are often motivated by a desire to assert power and control. They may present themselves as respectful, charismatic, and agreeable, particularly towards those they view as equals or superiors. Simultaneously, they may target individuals they perceive as less powerful or unequal, believing they can dominate or manipulate them to maintain a sense of control. It's significant to acknowledge that violence does not discriminate. It can be perpetrated by anyone, regardless of their background, demeanor, or relationship to you. There are no specific traits that definitely reveal who is capable of causing harm. At its core, violence is about exerting power and control, and unfortunately, that potential exists in people from all walks of life. When you become aware that someone you know has caused harm to another person, it is essential to recognize that their violent behavior is not negated by the fact that they've always treated you with kindness or respect. Positive interactions with you do not guarantee they treat others the same way. It's important to keep this in mind while also being open to hearing all perspectives. So, your feelings are valid. Coming to terms with such information can be deeply unsettling, and your emotional response is valid. The first step is to acknowledge your own feelings without allowing them to override the reality of the harm done. It's natural to want to give someone you care about the benefit of the doubt, but it's crucial to understand that how someone treats you may differ significantly from how they treat others. You may feel torn between wanting to defend them and wanting to support the person harmed. On one hand, you may feel loyalty, affection, or a sense of protectiveness towards the person accused, especially if they've always treated you with kindness or have been a consistent positive presence in your life. You may want to believe the best about them, give them the benefit of the doubt, or instinctively try to protect their reputation. You may think, they've never acted that way around me, or I've known them for years. It's hard to believe they would do something like that. On the other hand, you may also feel a strong urge to validate and support the person who came forward, especially if they're showing courage in disclosing something painful or traumatic. You might recognize that minimizing or dismissing their experience could cause additional harm, and not just to them, but to a broader culture of silence and fear. You might think, if I doubt or question their experience, am I contributing to their pain? Or what if no one else believes them? This tension can feel confusing and distressing. You might question your own judgment, struggle to take a clear stance, or feel paralyzed by guilt or disbelief. It's important to know that both sets of feelings are valid, but they don't have to cancel each other out. It's possible to hold space for your relationship with the person accused while still centering the safety, dignity, and needs of the person harmed. So, what to say when someone discloses harm from your friend? Ultimately, supporting someone who has experienced harm doesn't require having all the answers or saying the perfect thing. It starts with how we listen. When someone shares something difficult, especially about a person we know or care about, it can be deeply unsettling. We might feel shocked, conflicted, or even disoriented. But support doesn't mean pushing aside those feelings. It means making space for them without allowing them to override the survivor's experience. It means choosing to listen without judgment, to take their disclosure seriously, and to think critically about how our response might either support healing or unintentionally cause further harm. You don't have to be an expert to respond with care. You just need to be present, grounded, and real. Something as simple as, "Thank you for trusting me with this. I'm so sorry that happened to you. I believe you," can be incredibly powerful. That communicates that your pain is valid and that you are choosing to stand with them, even if you don't know exactly what that looks like yet. It's okay to be honest about your own reactions too. You might say something like, "I'm struggling because I knew that person as a friend and I didn't know they were capable of this. It's upsetting and confusing, but that doesn't change the fact that what happened to you is not okay. I'm here for you." Or you might simply name the moment for what it is. And that might sound like, "Wow, I really wasn't expecting to hear that. I'm honestly kind of shocked, but I really appreciate you telling me. I'm so sorry that happened. You didn't deserve that. I believe you, and I want to be thoughtful about how I respond. I just need a bit of time to process, but please know I'm here and I care. Let me know if there's anything you need right now." When we respond with openness and care, rather than defensiveness or disbelief, we create the conditions for trust, safety, and healing. We acknowledge the survivor's courage in speaking up and affirm their right to be heard and supported. At the same time, we honor our own humanity by being honest about the emotional weight of what we're hearing. You can be shaken by what you've learned and still choose to stand with the person who was harmed. These kind of responses don't have to be perfect, they just need to be real. Responding in this way shows that you believe them, that you care, and that you're committed to navigating what comes next with intention. Even if you're still processing your emotions, you can still choose to show up in ways that prioritize the survivor's dignity, validate their experience, and reaffirm their worth. In the end, it's not about having a perfect script, it's about showing up with presence, humility, and the willingness to center someone else's pain, even when it's hard. That kind of response can make all the difference. What to say to your friend who has caused harm? Having a conversation with someone you know who has caused harm can be challenging, but it is an important step in making it clear that the behavior is unacceptable and it's not supported. The words you choose to share can carry significant weight and may play a role in encouraging them to reflect, take accountability, and change their behavior. Some examples of messages you might consider communicating include: Message 1: Acknowledge the harm and name it clearly. That could sound like, what you're doing is abusive and it's causing real harm. That's not okay. Or, this behavior is hurting someone. Whether you see it or not, abuse is never justified. The second message is to separate the person from the harm. And this can sound like, I care about you, but I cannot support or excuse harmful behavior. Or, supporting you as a person does not mean supporting the harm you've done. Those are not the same. Message 3 is set boundaries and expectations. This could sound like, if you want to change, that's your decision, and I hope that you do, but no one can do that work for you. Or, I won't stay silent and pretend nothing's happening. That's not fair to the person who's been hurt. The next message is to encourage accountability and growth without taking on the burden. This could sound like, you have the chance to take responsibility, apologize meaningfully, and start repairing the harm, but that has to come from you. Or, accountability is not punishment. It's the first step towards becoming someone who doesn't keep causing harm. These conversations won't always be easy, and they may not always lead to immediate change. But speaking up matters. Your voice can be a catalyst for reflection, accountability, and transformation. By addressing harm directly and compassionately, you're drawing a clear line about what you will and won't support. You're showing that real care includes truth and that meaningful relationships require responsibility. Even when it's hard, choosing to engage rather than stay silent helps disrupt patterns of harm and opens the door to growth, healing, and integrity for everyone involved. Choosing to act even when it's hard. If you witness a friend engaging in harmful or targeted behavior towards someone, you have a responsibility to intervene and be an upstander. This includes prioritizing the safety and well being of the person being targeted, while also encouraging your friend to reflect on their actions and make more responsible choices moving forward. If you are aware that someone you know has caused harm to someone, your personal feelings toward them should not outweigh the importance of accountability and support for the person who was harmed. It is essential to stand with those who have been impacted, rather than contributing to any backlash or dismissal of their experience. Right and wrong are not determined by loyalty or popularity. While it might be challenging, true friendship involves encouraging one another to take responsibility, make amends, and grow, not simply affirming that they're always right. At some point, you may find yourself faced with a difficult choice, deciding whether to confront harmful behavior in someone you know, even at the potential cost of your relationship with them. It might be a moment, there might be a moment where the harm becomes impossible to ignore. Perhaps you witness them acting aggressively, controlling someone, or creating an unsafe environment at home. Would you contact the appropriate authorities? Would you distance yourself from them and shift your support towards those being harmed? Any action you consider should always center the safety of those directly impacted, whether that includes a partner, children, or others in the household, as well as your own safety. There comes a time when it's important to ask yourself, if I choose not to act, am I allowing this harm to continue unchecked? It may seem like there are few clear paths to address a situation, support the people being harmed, or hold someone you know accountable. And sometimes, those paths rarely are limited. But even so, choosing to speak up or take action matters. By drawing a clear line, you communicate that the harm is unacceptable and that the person responsible is accountable for their behavior, and that change is not only necessary, but possible. Your voice, your boundaries, and your willingness to take a stand can be powerful tools for disrupting the cycles of harm and encourage healing. So, encouraging your friend to take accountability. It's entirely possible and important to support someone you know who has caused harm in a meaningful and responsible way. True support involves encouraging them to take accountability for their actions, apologize, and to make amends. But it's also important to remember their accountability is not your responsibility. You cannot force someone to take responsibility for their actions. Even with the best intentions, even if you care deeply and want to see them grow, real change must be a choice they make for themselves. Their journey of growth, repair, and transformation is one they must choose to walk. While you can express your concerns, set clear boundaries, and communicate your hopes for accountability, the responsibility to take meaningful steps forward lies with them alone. Centering the needs and experiences of those harmed does not mean abandoning those we care about. Rather, it means holding space for both accountability and relationship without compromising the integrity of either. You are not responsible for fixing someone else's behavior or ensuring their change. Your role is to act with integrity, not to carry the weight of someone else's choices. If they are wanting and ready to take accountability, a sincere apology that shows accountability is the first essential step in this process. This kind of apology isn't a single conversation. It's often the start of a longer process, especially when serious harm has occurred. It's less about being forgiven and more about being accountable and doing the internal work to ensure it never happens again. For the individual who has caused harm, it is essential to recognize that their actions were the result of their own choices. They made a conscious decision to cause harm, and it is now their responsibility to make intentional and thoughtful choices moving forward. Choices that prioritize accountability, growth, and the prevention of further harm. So, my final thoughts. Our relationships can be powerful spaces for accountability, healing, and transformation. Supporting someone who has caused harm doesn't mean looking the other way or making excuses. It means having the courage to call them in, to set boundaries, rooted in care, and to keep the experiences of those who have been harmed at the center. Accountability isn't ours to carry for someone else, but we do have a role to play. When we choose to name harm, stand in our values, and resist the urge to stay silent, we become part of a bigger shift toward honesty, safety, and repair in our communities. This work is hard. It asks us to sit with discomfort, to hold grief and love at the same time, and to stay present even when the path forward isn't clear. But growth lives in these moments. Change begins when we decide to show up with integrity, not perfection. And even small acts of courage, like asking hard questions, offering truth with compassion, or refusing to look away, can ripple outward in powerful ways. You don't have to do this alone, and you don't have to figure it out all at once. Just begin where you are and keep choosing to move forward towards justice, care, and truth. One conversation, one relationship, one moment at a time. Thank you so much for being here and engaging in this conversation. I know today's topic wasn't easy, and I really appreciate your openness, your attention, and your willingness to sit with complexity. This work doesn't end where this webinar does. These are ongoing conversations that we carry into our lives, our relationships, and our communities. It's okay if you're still figuring out what your role is. What matters is that you're asking the questions. Take care of yourself as a process, reflect, talk it out with someone you trust, and remember, your role in this work matters. Thank you again for being part of this space. I hope you leave feeling grounded, curious, and connected to a deeper sense of integrity.